Part of it was wanting the opportunity for this to be a creative outlet. I also think that it's an emotional outlet, and it is heavy music. I don't want to write a heavy song that's just about silly stuff. I want it to hold some weight and have some conviction in what I'm screaming, you know? Cool.
I am with Mitchell Layton from Pipe Bomb, and Pipe Bomb is a metalcore solo project with influences from The Chariot, Norma Jean, and Nails. He lives in the Jersey, Philadelphia area where he has an apartment, but often records in his mom's basement. He graduated summa cum laude with a bachelor's degree in writing arts, and he studied at the Musicians Institute. Outside of Pipe Bomb, he plays guitar in an indie punk band named Church Girls, and he plays bass in a post-hardcore band called Plead the Widow's Cause. He's a professional copywriter and anime expert by day, and someone who has aggressively taken over my Instagram feed and workout playlist by night. Thanks for hanging out with me today, Mitch. How'd I do?
That was pretty good. You definitely did your homework. I will say, so Church Girls is not currently active. We may do something in the future. I'm not sure. But before Pipe Bomb, that was kind of like my main thing is I played guitar in an indie punk band called Church Girls. And we toured a decent amount, and yeah, still really good friends with those guys. But yeah, we got older, we had families, you know, got married, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's the only clarification. And I don't know if I would say I'm an anime expert. I'm definitely still a noob in a lot of senses, but I really enjoy anime. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I found that in one of your bios somewhere.
Yeah. But maybe one of my writing bios, because they were a lot of times you have to like ask about, you know, hobbies you're into and things like that. But yeah, for sure, definitely an anime fan.
Cool. Well, I thought we could start with your spiritual journey. I know we're going to talk a lot about the music, but I'd love to know, like, did you grow up in the church?
Yeah, I did. So both my parents were believers, which is cool. My mom is the first Protestant Christian in her family. She grew up in a very Catholic family, which to an outside perspective may seem like they're more or less the same. Definitely not the case when you're in a Catholic family. That is like leaving the religion. And I have a lot of respect for Catholics, and it's definitely not like that anymore, I would say, in our family. I think things have normalized quite a bit. But that was a pretty big leap for my mom to take to, you know, kind of on her own spiritual journey to leave the Catholic Church and to become Protestant. So me and my brother were raised in like a Methodist church. That's kind of what we grew up going to. As you get older, you develop your own opinions on things and you start kind of researching things, even researching like, okay, what is the Catholic Church? What did my mom come from? And I kind of like revisiting all these things and trying to figure out where I fall on the spectrum. And I think that's an evolving thing. Where I've landed is kind of like more like Reformed Baptist, you know, type of church. There's still kind of a spectrum there. Mm-hmm. That's sort of where I am right now. But yeah, I was definitely raised in the church. And for a lot of people, that's like, it can be a kind of like messy thing, specifically when people talk about like church hurt or like deconstruction later on, if they were raised in a Christian family or in a Christian home. Mine was not like that. I had a very good upbringing. I had really good influences within the church and within my family. And yeah, there are definitely, I mean, people are imperfect. And so there's going to be messy situations no matter what, or there's going to be things I look back on and I'm like, wow, that was theologically pretty whack. But for the most part, I feel really blessed to have grown up in the family that I grew up in and to have been at the churches that I've been at. Yeah. No matter what stage I was at, you know, there was definitely a lot of good things, and you can kind of see, looking back, you can see how God kind of uses those things to grow you, for sure.
Yeah, as you said, not everyone has that experience, so for sure that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you went from, all right, you're a believer because your parents taught you about Christ, and then it transition to, okay, this is actually something I'm internalizing. It's become real for me. Now now he's my Lord and Savior. He's not just some historical figure that I believed in.
Yeah, I think kind of high school era or that time was kind of where I fell into that, partially because I think that's when I became more self-aware of a lot of sins I was dealing with. High school is kind of a time where that happens and you're kind of presented with real world temptation, maybe for the first time, maybe not. But for me, it was kind of where a lot of things came to a head. Obviously, you're like a teenager and you're super emotional. And so I feel like that was going on too. And so I feel like I was just kind of questioning a lot of things and realizing that I was calling myself a Christian and I believed all the things I should believe as a Christian, but in practice, I was just kind of treating it like a pastime or something, or like, oh, that's just a thing that I do. And there was a real like wake up moment where I don't know, even like subtle things like casually cursing or something like that is enough to kind of like make other friends around me be like, oh, wait, I thought you were like a Christian and you shouldn't do things like that. And then when that happens, you're like, ugh, like it's like a knife in the heart. Because I know they're right. And I know that, like, yeah, I shouldn't be acting like that. And then there was a moment where I started, or me and my friends kind of like created a band. And it was like the first time I was in like a metal band. And two of the guys were like very new Christians and like their lives were like dramatically different from, months prior. And seeing that difference in them was like, oh, yeah, that's like, I haven't thought about that for myself. I thought about myself as like, oh, I'm saved, I'm good. And I realized that was just like super irresponsible of me to do that. And as a teenager, you're super irresponsible anyway. But for me, that was a moment of like, this matters a lot. And this is something that I've been neglecting and I should be thinking about more. And the way that they're feeling is how I want to feel, even though I've been a Christian for, most of my life. And then I think also realizing that we were attaching ourselves to a Christian name of being like, oh, we want this to be a Christian band, is realizing that held weight to it, even though we were a small band and no one really cared about who we were. Even publicly identifying ourselves with that was
Yeah, there's
something
some
that,
accountability there.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, for me, it feels weird to like have that be a thing where it's like, I wouldn't say it's like, and then I got my act together. I think that's a moment where God convicted me a lot that it's not simply believing in Jesus. Like as Christians, we're people who follow Jesus. And if you believe him, but you're not really following him in practice, that's not, I mean, that can even call into question your belief, And so for me, I that was the realization, is like, I'm not following Jesus as closely as I should be. And so, yeah, that just really kind of took me on to like, oh, this is my own thing now. As your life changes and grows, your faith changes and grows and your opinions change and grow. So yeah, I think that was the moment where I was like, okay, this feels different. This feels like I'm grappling with things that are related to my own life and the trajectory of my life too.
Did you have anyone in your life that was like a spiritual mentor or someone that discipled you, invested in you spiritually?
Yeah. I think my parents, I mean, that's an obvious answer. It's not obvious for everyone. But for me, I was lucky enough. Both my parents were believers. My dad died pretty young. My dad died when he was 38 and I was 11, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's right around the time where you're like, kind of need something like that. So luckily I had a lot of other guys within the church who were either friends with my dad or just kind of, I guess, took that opportunity to be like, oh, I'm going to like, try to talk to this kid, who's in the church. So even people like youth leaders, assistant pastors, things like that. A lot of people, made an effort to like talk with me. And yeah, specifically my youth leader at the church I was going to with my family at the time, definitely like a major part of the glue that held the church together and a lot of the relationships I had at that church. And I think helped a lot of us kind of find our own path forward as adults from there. So yeah, I feel very thankful. Again, not everyone has that experience with youth leaders, but ours was really good and I'm very thankful for him. And I think from there, I was lucky enough to, like, as an adult, as a 23-year-old, I moved out to LA and did 1 year of music school. It is way too expensive to do any more than that. And I was like, oh, maybe this can be a path to like a career in music, and definitely have mixed opinions on whether that was worth it or not. But anyway, all that aside, living in LA was very different than what I anticipated. And God really blessed me with a lot of close friends out there who, even though they were like my age or like a little bit older, proved to be really good mentors for me, almost like older brothers.
Yeah.
And even just like pastors and people close to me out there that, yeah, really were good at discipling me and keeping me accountable.
Have there been spiritual catalysts or milestones since then that have matured you in your faith?
I think becoming a member of a church has been one. initially that was my thought of like, okay, you're just officially attending a church or something. And then the more that I looked into it and the more that I became aware of it through my current church is just like, no, you're kind of signing on to that accountability. And in a way, it is like a public declaration of your faith. One of the, besides baptism, maybe the most significant public declaration of your faith. So that was a big one just in terms of, I guess, feeling like I've arrived at a place that I can call a home church outside of just, oh yeah, I go there every week. We're invested here. And then another moment, I don't know if I would necessarily call it like a catalyst moment, but definitely a learning moment for me was just being married. And I think thinking more about my role as a husband to lead and to teach the word to my family, kind of like starting with my wife and that being a convicting moment of like, man, I love my wife. She's a very good wife and she knows a lot about the Bible and she's very diligent with reading the Bible. And so I think having that moment of like, I need to catch up to her is kind of like not in a performance way, but just in a, she cares so much about this, I need to care more too. And knowing that that's where I need to be to lead my family and that actually can be a tough thing. It's something I think a lot of guys don't really think much about before they get married, and some don't think about after they're married.
Yeah, it seems
But
like a lot of guys are content to let their wives be, the front runner, the spokesperson, the spiritual leader. So I commend you about that. I've been married. I'm about to hit 25 years
wow.
of being married, and I remember when I proposed and she said yes. It was not a coincidence, but I was reading Ephesians 5, where Paul talks about husbands loving your wives as Christ loved the church.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like this huge weight of, oh my gosh, like, how can I possibly do that? Like that's like mission impossible, but God give me strength. I want to live up to that. I want to aspire to do that. If you're going to command me to do it, I believe you're going to give me the wisdom and the strength to do it. So that was certainly a catalyst in my life as well. Just knowing that command was out there.
Yeah. And I think it's, marriage and cohabitation and dating in general have just become so casual in modern society that I don't think a lot of people, even Christians, understand the weight that comes along with that. Even just the emotional weight of being attached to somebody. Like you said, there is a weight when you realize that there's a weight to that. So yeah, it definitely, I feel like God has been using it to grow me for sure.
Cool. So church today, you're a member. Are you serving somewhere? Like, is it the pipe bomb worship team? Like, what does your involvement in church look like?
Yeah, it's definitely not the pipe bomb worship team. Yeah, I do serve. I'm one of the worship leaders at my church. The music is very different than pipe bomb, which is a good thing for church. And yeah, me and my wife both serve in different ways. She kind of serves on the refreshments team and handles a lot of like the logistical things about getting things ready for the morning service.
And where are you at with God today?
That's a big question. I'm not sure how to answer that. So I recently started reading the Bible again from the start. My memory is really bad. I don't retain a lot of things. And I've realized that even though there are things that I've read previously, there's a lot of things that are just not top of mind. So I've been going through and rereading, and it's like I'm reading it for the first time. Like I forgot everything, and I'm like rereading these things. And so that's been kind of a wake-up call of just how important that is. Just being in the Word and knowing the Word is something that I've not been very good at, again, because it's just some things that's like in one ear and out the other. But that's not the case with other things. Like I can remember like stupid movie lines and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, like mentally, where are my priorities? If I can remember these movie lines, but not, a chapter and verse, what am I doing? And I get it. Those are different. It's like remembering a song. Songs are catchy, movie lines can be funny and that's why they stick with you. There are different reasons for things, but it still kind of sheds some light on like, where are my priorities in how I'm approaching this? And I think it's similar to the kind of shift in thinking when I became a husband is like, oh, I don't want to take a back seat here. And so that's been kind of what I've been working through lately is seeking God more. Or even a different approach in terms of praying is like I'm just really guilty of just asking for things all the time and not spending nearly enough time thanking God or thinking back on all the ways that he's been faithful through everything that I've dealt with throughout my whole life, or things I've asked him for in the past, or things that he's definitely provided. That the moment he provided, I was like, okay, cool, on to the next thing, and just becoming more aware of how inconsistent I am. And we all are as people, but realizing that you never stop growing, and I can't allow myself to just kind of get stagnant, and just been convicted that I need to be seeking more. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. That's a very
Yeah.
big question, so I have a hard
Yeah,
time
no,
kind
it
of
is. It
articulating that,
is.
but
It
yeah.
is. One of the things that I would say I'm presently struggling with as we're in the process of making metal versions of the Psalms is I really wanted this to be a project that I did with God and not for God or just, in the realm of God because it is his word. And even this morning, I was sitting in that chair back there and I was just talking to him, and I'm like, I feel like I'm striving a lot in this music thing, especially the social media stuff, which we'll get into later. But it's like the minute he's like, "Hey, I will do this with you," I just feel this tremendous amount of peace. Is that like when you think about all the stuff that you're doing with Pipe Bomb? Does it feel like it's something that you're getting to do with Father God?
Sort of. I don't think I consciously think about that too much. To be honest, I've always viewed it more as like a creative outlet as opposed to a very like mission-minded thing. And that's been changing a little bit lately, I think, as the audience grows and I realize, how diverse the audience is. Like there's a lot of people who like Pipe Bomb that are Christians. There's a lot of people who like Pipe Bomb that have never been in a church ever. And so I think my approach has been changing a little bit. There's a weight to the things that I say and wanting to handle them in the right way. But yeah, I think in terms of like the songwriting process or in terms of my approach to writing Pipe Bomb songs in general, I tend to think of it more as like, this is my creative outlet. And sometimes like, praying to God and being like, I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what, whatever you want this to be is what I want it to be. And kind of like holding it with an open hand. But yeah, at least from the start and how I've been approaching it is more of just like a creative outlet in a space where I feel like there's a lot of other things going on, but nothing that kind of fits the same specific target as what Pipe Bomb is going for. So I'm like, well, even if that's the only thing is like kind of fitting into that space and giving people something to listen to in that space, maybe that's all it's meant to do, or maybe there's more to it than that. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point. That's maybe something I should think about more is praying more about that and thinking about not just having it be like, what do I want this to be?
Well, I hear what you're saying. I was listening to another podcast that you were on, and you were talking about specifically the lyrics, right? Because a lot of your lyrics are, I mean, they're not
Dark.
K-Love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So you were talking about balancing just kind of the heaviness. Yeah, I'll use your word darkness. That I probably would have used like intense.
Yeah. That works too.
Maybe in the angry family, but you also didn't want it to be, that characterizes your view of God or faith or just that little corner of the spectrum of human emotions. You also wanted there to be hope and optimism. So how do you think about those things, the heart of God and reflecting all the things that he cares about as you're in that creative outlet mode?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get all of that into a song. And I would say it's pretty impossible to try to get the full spectrum of that into any one song.
For sure.
So I try to view each song as a specific thing at a specific time and place. That's a slice of the pie. It's not the whole thing. So from a glance, you might look at some of the lyrics and be like, whoa, this is, pretty angry. And generally, they're all going to be sort of like that. I mean, it is like a metal genre.
Yeah.
Again, part of it was wanting the opportunity for this to be a creative outlet. I also think that it's an emotional outlet and it is heavy music. I don't want to write a heavy song that's just about silly stuff. I want it to hold some weight and have some conviction in what I'm screaming, But in that moment, that doesn't mean that that's the entirety of what I think about things. And so I try to sprinkle in little things throughout of like, hey, this isn't the whole picture. If you take a song like Hellhole, that's about someone in my family, did a lot of things to really ruin his marriage and a lot of sin and mental illness, screwed up a lot of things. And so that song is kind of about the pitiful state that that person ended up in. And at the end of that song, it kind of opens up into more of this, aside from the grace of God, that's somewhere that any one of us could end up. So even a song like that, where it's pretty focused on the one thing, I try to leave a little bit of like, okay, but there is hope. And that's something I've been thinking about lately is where's the balance there? I don't want to lean too hard on just being kind of like aggro all the time. But at the same
But the
time,
aggro is so fun.
yeah, well, that's the thing is like, then maybe that's more where this should be because it's not Caleb. And I think the target demographics are very different, obviously. But I think also the approach is different. And I've kind of seen this with the song Under God's Heel. That one is doing quite a bit better than most of my other songs. And I think it's because even though it still has this heavy feeling, it's almost like I don't want to call it a pop song. It's definitely not a pop song, but the lyrics themselves are very straightforward, memorable, simple, and they kind of get people fired up almost in the same way that like, a trendy worship song would. And that wasn't like my intention with it. Maybe to get people fired up, but things like that tend to resonate with people much in the same way that pop music does, where it's like it makes you feel good and like, revved up. Whereas a lot of the other songs have quite a bit more like complex emotions or even like darker emotions and darker music and more complex, maybe dissonant music to go along with it. And so there is something where like maybe people do need something that is that more like straightforward, hopeful lyric, like the uplifting, encouraging kind of thing. That's never like in the forefront of my mind, but it is something that I've been like, okay, maybe I should put more of that in there. Not so that the song like does better, but just because I think that's something that people genuinely are looking for in this genre. And I also don't want everything to just be doom and gloom or even all negative emotion. And the song Under God's Heel is kind of like turning a negative emotion into a positive emotion. But yeah, that balance is definitely tricky for sure, of not wanting everything to be so angry all the time, but not wanting to just like go a different direction either.
Yeah, I get that. So I did want to ask, I want to get into the lyrics a little bit more, but I don't want to skip over. How did you land on the name?
Pipe Bomb was just kind of like a fun thing. I was watching a documentary on the Unabomber, and they said something about pipe bombs, obviously, because it's the Unabomber. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And that's about all there is to it. I just wanted something that sounded cool and that no one had taken already. And I never really thought that it was going to get this far, so I didn't really put a ton of thought into the name as a whole. But yeah, I just had a demo sitting on my computer and was like, well, I need a name for this. Pipe Bomb sounds cool. There it goes. I think a lot of people want the name to mean something. I would much rather it just sound cool. Like the songs mean something, the band itself means something. The name of the band, I just want it to sound cool. I want it to be something that's easy to type into a search engine. There's been a lot of bands that like sound cool, but their name makes me not want to listen to them, and vice versa. There's bands that aren't really that good, but because they have an interesting sounding band name, I'm like, well, I got to look them up and see what they sound like.
Was there a point where you went from, hey, this is a creative outlet, this is kind of fun, I'm playing around with it, I got a band name, to, oh my gosh, this is like a thing that could go somewhere?
I would say probably after the first EP came out, or I guess even after the first single came out. There, it kind of goes in steps. When I came out with False God, for the first couple weeks, it was basically just my friends listening to it, which I'm thankful for. And then a couple friends sent it to Sean at Kingdom Core, who posted it from his page. And then it was like, boom, 1,000 followers overnight, which I know to a lot of people, 1,000 followers isn't a big deal. To me, that was a huge deal because I was like, whoa, it went from like nothing to like people actually care about this. And they're like, when's the next song? And I'm like, there isn't a next, I don't have anything else. This is it. And so I guess that was a moment where I was like, oh, I guess I should probably write some more stuff. I think a similar thing happened after the EP came out, is people were like, I wanted more songs. And I was like, I don't have any more songs. And I was like, well, maybe I should work on an album. And then by the time I started writing, I was like, I think I have enough songs for one. So yeah, I think with each step, there's been more like, people are still listening. I guess I can keep writing stuff,
So you have a day job and you're making music and you're doing all the content creation. So like, how do you do it all? What does a typical day look like? How do you fit it all in?
Well, things are changing up a little bit now. I just got a new job. For a while, I was in between jobs, and that made the content creation part pretty easy because I had spare time. When I was working full time, I definitely just kind of picked times where I could film a lot of stuff at once and then just kind of like stagger out posting it. But it's a grind for sure. And I don't want to annoy people with how much I post, but it's also like not really reaching my full audience every time. You know, like your reach is limited and sometimes it reaches a lot of new people each time you post. So it's kind of like at each time you post something, there's a chance a lot of new people might see it. Oh, I guess you asked like, what does a normal day look like? I mean, when I was unemployed, it looked like waking up, looking for jobs, filming some stuff, posting some stuff, going for a run, and responding to things, trying to keep on track of merch orders and things like that. And
But
now
you're
things are
also
changing.
recording, right? Or at least coming up with new ideas for songs. I think I saw a reel where you were doing all kinds of cool riffs into your phone. So I mean, that seems like an ongoing thing, like a brief interruption in the day or like middle of the
Yeah.
night wake up sort of a thing.
Yeah. Specifically, like as I'm falling asleep once or twice a week, I'll think of something. And I'm like, oh, and I like wake up and like go in the other room and like, whisper the part into my phone and then go back to sleep. But yeah, I've been trying to write and record some new ideas I mean, even before Hellhole came out, I was starting on some new songs, but I'm trying to take my time with it a little bit. Part of it is just I'm getting older and my back hurts a lot when I sit down to work. I have terrible posture when I play the guitar. I'm like really hunched over like this. So I have maybe an hour or two tops to record things before my back really starts hurting and I start to get subconsciously frustrated and angry just because I'm in pain. But yeah, I try to pick little periods throughout the day of like, oh, I have this riff. I haven't recorded it yet. Let me just sit down with it and get something down so it's here. And then maybe that leads to me writing another part for it. If I'm playing it, I'm like, oh, this feels like it should go here. And sometimes it just totally doesn't lead anywhere and I get really frustrated. I'm like, I need to put this down and come back to it later. So lately that's been more what's happening is I've hit the frustrating part of the writing process where I'm like, I feel like I don't know where I want any of these to go. But I mean, I have 20 or 30 demo ideas that some of them are almost full songs. Some of them are basically one riff and that's it.
Do you
So
start with riffs or do you start with lyrics or does it just depend?
most of the time I start with rhythms. So if that Instagram reel where I was like talking about different like, humming things into my phone, most of that is just to get the rhythm down. And then I figure out the notes later. Like sometimes it's a drum part, sometimes it's just like the cadence of the riff as opposed to the notes itself. 9 times out of 10, that's where I start. Sometimes I'll start with like a lyric. It's typically not like multiple lines. Sometimes I'll have an idea of like, oh, this line would sound really cool with this type of riff, but then I'm not sure where to put it. Usually I'll put that in later. So I'll kind of keep that in the back of my head and then be like, okay, if I get to a point in a song where I can put something like that in there, then cool, I'll take that idea and put it there. But yeah, most of the time I start with like humming rhythms into my phone and then sitting down with a guitar, trying to figure out notes that fit that rhythm and fit the tuning I'm in and what I want it to sound like, and then just kind of build on it from there.
Okay. And I am at best an intermediate guitar player, but even I can tell that a lot of your stuff is pretty complex and hard to play. I can't imagine how you're going to do it live. Is it a greater challenge when you're performing live, especially your faster songs?
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, so getting a live lineup has been like a process, but yeah, I feel very lucky. So I play bass in Plead the Widow's Cause, and a lot of the guys in Plead the Widow's Cause are going to play for Pipe Bomb for our live shows. And I think it's been like a learning experience for everyone because this is just how I've written for a long time. So I don't really think about it too much. But then teaching them the songs and kind of hearing what they're saying and thinking about what I'm playing more. Some of it's complex. Most of it is just like a stupid, simple riff that's fast. So, or, faster than you would normally play it. And yeah, so I think it's been interesting to like teach it to the guys and they're like, man, this feels so weird. And then like next week they're like, oh yeah, I got it. And they just like play it normal. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Cool.
So yeah, that's been cool. We added a song to our set list because we realized our set was like 15 minutes and because the songs are so short. So we added another song to it. And when they went to learn it, they learned it so easy because they were like, well, we already learned the other ones and this is a very similar thing. So it happened so quick. And I was like, whoa, this is great. But yeah, there are definitely songs like, like I Will Kill the Worst Parts of Myself has a lot of like those dissonant pull off layers that like outside of having 3 guitar players, I don't think we could do live, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also just a really fast thing. And I think those guys, their playing style is a little different than mine. And so I'm trying to like pick songs that I think cater to or like the overlap there. And so some of the songs are just like definitely trickier to play live. But oddly enough, some of the faster ones that I'd say they're probably harder for my brother, who's the drummer. But guitar wise, it's been okay. And those have actually been sounding like some of the best out of all of them. Those were the ones where I'm like, oh, these might be too hard. I think they sound better than most of the other songs we're working on just because I feel like everyone's really digging it and we're really like hammering in on it. So sometimes you don't know until you try stuff, you know? I'd say it's more like the complex layers of things. Getting that to, it's not going to sound like that live, you know? Like we
Mm-hmm.
might have to do some little tricks. There's some parts where we're going to have to use like a pitch shifter to kind of harmonize with what one guitar is playing before the other one comes in. But yeah, we're kind of figuring that out, and it's been fun to figure it out and see. I was like, oh, this sounds different. That's kind of cool. Some of the things we're doing live are a little bit different, and I always liked it when bands do that. So yeah, I think it'll be fun.
How does your wife feel about your music? Does she listen to this style of music?
No, she definitely does not. She actually posted something about like her Spotify Wrapped, and it was a bunch of lighter like Christian music or like hymns and something, and then like her second band was like Pipe Bomb, just because she'll listen to it and she's like, oh yeah, I like it, but it's because it's your band. She's a good sport. It's definitely not her style, but I think she likes it just because I'm writing it. She's also been a good barometer for, is this too edgy or is this fine? There's a lyric I changed in Tabloid where it says, kill your idols, kill your soul. The original lyric was kill your idols, kill yourself, meaning like yourself has become your idol, which logically I could explain it. People aren't going to think like that when they see that. They're going to see it and freak out. And she was like, yeah, I'd change that one. I was like, okay. So it's been good to kind of have her as like, okay, you have like normal brain. You're not in like metal world. So you're not thinking about things the same way I would. You know, what do you think about this? So yeah, anyway, she's a good sport about it.
That's good. My wife, she likes boy bands and 90s hip hop. So I don't think you would find Out of the Depths on her playlist at all. In fact, we wrapped recording Psalm 2. We just got the vocals in and got the mix. And I'm like, hey, can you listen to this? Because the guy had a bit of an accent. I'm like, I just want to see if you think the accent is too much. And I could see her go, okay, play it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. One of my kids likes my music. That's enough for me.
Nice. That's a win.
I posted something. I tagged you. You saw it. People wrote some questions in from socials. David wants to know, what's your current amp and your dream amp?
I have a couple current amps. You can see one of them here. It's a Black Star Club 40. I actually haven't used that one for a few years. It was in my mom's basement, and the last time I was over there, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to take it over here. It sounds better than I remembered. I kind of like it. And then over here, I have a Orange Super Crush 100. It's like a solid state rock reverb copy sort of thing. That's pretty cool. I've used it to record stuff in the past. It's not 100% the sound I'm going for. Whereas, I mean, rock reverbs are really expensive, and I played them before and I really like them. This is definitely good for what it is. And I have a PV, I believe it's a PV Windsor 412 cab. I didn't actually check the model. It might have the Sheffield speakers in it. I haven't opened up the back, but there's something weird in the speakers where if you're right in front of it, it sounds okay. If you move anywhere else, it feels kind of muddy and weird. The two amps that I used for Hellhole were my EVH 5150. It's a 50 watt head and like matching 212 cab. That rips. That's like my favorite. I got it for a steal, and I've used it for a lot of stuff. So yeah, I would just reamp the things I recorded here in my mom's basement with my 5150. So that's like my number one. And then I also have a Quilter Overdrive 200, which is like a solid state head, and it's pretty small. It's like it could fit on a pedal board, and that's really cool. It's an interesting amp. It's a pretty good pedal platform. I've used it sending like a modeling signal through the effects loop. So I'm bypassing the amp and just like amplifying, like using it as a power amp basically. But the actual amp part of it is pretty cool, especially if you like crank it a bit or throw like a pedal in front of it. So that was the other rhythm guitar for the album, was Dirty Signal or Dirty Channel in the Overdrive 200 with a Nobles Overdrive in front of it. That was a long-winded answer, but I like guitar stuff, so that's kind of
Yeah.
where my brain went. That's what I have currently. Dream amp.
Yeah, money's no object. Some rich guy gifts you whatever you want.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably need to try some, but there's definitely a few. I mean, Marshalls are great. Every Marshall I've ever tried has been awesome. I mean, JCM 800 is like classic, so that's definitely up there. Dual rectifier is definitely up there. I want to get the model name right. I think it's a dual dark from Orange. I think the guitar player for Kubla Khan used to use one of those. I don't know if he still does, but yeah, that thing rips, and it's just got this huge, like almost like fizzy sound to it. It's really cool. Really, Orange amps in general I find very interesting. They have a cool tone to them. And yeah, I'd love to have like a proper like PV 5150 or 6505. My friend Matt has a 6505, and I love it. Every time I play through it, it's like, oh, this is the sound. Like, it's just immediately the sound. So out of all the ones that are just, I mean, some of those amps really aren't that expensive. It's just more expensive than I would like. So any one of those.
How about guitars?
Guitars are kind of tricky because I feel like in general, I've spent more time and money on my guitars than I have on amps. I don't know if I would recommend that. I think it's actually probably more important to have a good amp sound. But up there, I have a Jim Root Jazzmaster, which is basically a Jazzmaster with a longer scale length and EMG pickups in it, and that thing rips. I used that on some of the songs in Hellhole. So for a while, that was like my dream guitar, and I have it, which is cool. And I would love to have a Gibson Les Paul. I'm kind of blocking it with my head right now, but I have a Epiphone Les Paul back there, which is like one of my main ones, and that thing sounds really good. But I'd love to have a proper Gibson. I don't know about their quality control lately. I don't know about the differences in years, but I have heard that some of the early 2000s ones are super good. If you get a vintage one, those are really good. The more that I play the guitar, the more that I realize like you really need to play each one individually to feel things before you buy them. So some of it may come down to that, but yeah, a good Gibson Les Paul would definitely be on my list.
So this is not one of the submitted questions. Well, I can submit it as a fan. So I'm actually in the market for a bass. I don't have a bass, but it's something I feel like I need just to be able to add that to our production. Do you use a 4-string, a 5-string? Like, how do you think about that in terms of the kind of music you want to make?
I use a 4-string, but I would definitely be interested in a 5-string. To be honest, I probably should have gotten a 5-string when I started, because I wrote a couple songs in this really stupid tuning where it's like drop D, but you're dropping way more than a D. So it's standard, but then the bottom string is in A. So it's A, D, G, B, E. So the bottom two strings are an octave apart. It's like the poor man's drop A, where you don't have to drop everything to A, you just drop the one string. It's fun and it's cool and it allows for some really cool voicings, but my guitars aren't necessarily set up for that, so they're really floppy, which is cool also. Like, it gives you that floppy, like, you know, ringing, like it's not quite in tune sound.
Goes with the chaotic part of chaotic metalcore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually very fun, and playing them live has been really cool in that tuning specifically. But I will say the bass, it felt like it was too floppy to really get that resonance across, and the guitars were okay. The bass I thought was lacking on that. On my end, like playing the bass, I was like, man, I want more low end from this. I want more depth. So having a 5-string would definitely help in that case. I got a 4-string because I'm like, that's 4 is fine. It's way, you know, I don't feel like having to like think about what the 5th string is. I've never really messed with like guitars with 7 strings or anything like that. So I was just like, 4 is simpler. I'm going to stick to that. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in trying a 5-string just because I think it might be easier for stuff like that.
Nice. Burden Set wants to know.
That's my friend Steven.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so he wants to know.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Who is he?
No, he's my good friend from LA, and Burden Set is his band name. It's a similar thing to Pipe Bomb. It's like a one-man band.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's asking, what changed for you in the writing and producing process between the EP and the full length?
Well, the EP, I did everything myself. So guitar, bass, vocals, I programmed the drums myself, and then I did mixing and mastering myself. Guitar, bass, vocals, I'm pretty comfortable with. Drum programming, I can do basic stuff. I can't really get too crazy with it. Mixing and mastering, I hit my limit really quick. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to like trust my ears a little bit and figure things out. For what it is, I'm relatively happy with how it turned out, but I knew for the album I wanted to do things differently because I was like, I need someone else to take this over, you know? So the way that I recorded the EP is I actually recorded live in the room with an amp, and then I blended that with other takes that I did with my HX Stomp, like a modeling rig. That was okay, but I wanted something a little cleaner sounding. Cleaner meaning less guitar tracks that are different. So I basically wanted one good guitar track, rhythm guitar left, one good guitar track, rhythm guitar right, and then anything else is like extra. It's like a harmony or it's like an octave below or something. So for those two main rhythm guitars, I recorded with my HX Stomp. That's how I record. I record at home in my apartment with my HX Stomp, but I also record a DI of that at the same time. And then I go through, if I need to re-record anything or comp anything, I do that. So I have that like edited DI, and then I reamp that at my mom's house in her basement with my 5150. So that was different this time because when I recorded the EP, I was living at my mom's house to save money for getting married. Now I'm in an apartment, and so I have to drive back there and do that. So that's a slight difference. And I had some different gear. I got an SM7B, Shure SM7B vocal microphone that I use for all my vocals now, and I've used it to mic up guitar amps. But in terms of the songwriting approach, I think it was pretty similar. The recording approach was different because I did the DI signal into reamping. It exported the drums differently, so it's like exporting every drum as its own mic'd up channel so that the mixing engineer could mix them how he would mix a normal drum set. But yeah, the songwriting process was pretty similar, with the exception of the songs Tabloid and Bliss, the two kind of more fast-paced, grindier songs. Those were songs I had written way before Pipe Bomb, probably like 2 years before I started Pipe Bomb. I was thinking about starting a band that was more like that fast-paced hardcore style with my brother. He was super busy with work at the time, and I was like, I don't really think this is going to happen, so I'm going to hold on to these. And then I just kind of used them later, and I was like, I think I could turn these into a Pipe Bomb song. So I just kind of re-recorded them. So yeah, in a weird way, Hellhole was kind of like a hodgepodge of songs. Like, it was some stuff I wrote that was like brand new, and I was like, this is like Choke is a good example of like, this is the style I want to go for. And then like Bliss and Tabloid were like 4 years old at that point, and I was like, I like these too, I'm going to throw them in there. And then like Straight Edge Hate is like really straightforward, kind of like hardcore song. And I'm like, I don't know, I like that, I'll throw that in. Concrete, Hate Club, newer ones that kind of fit that like Norma Jean Every Time I Die thing. It felt like a compilation or something. Like, it felt like I was just using what I had, and like, I like all these things. I know they're not all the same, but like, at least people will be able to listen through and be like, hey, this is different than the last song. It's not like everything blends together. So hopefully that answers that. I didn't like change a ton except for the recording process, and then the songwriting process is still just, if I like it, I'm going to try to put it somewhere.
Steven also asked for you to share a little bit more about your lyric writing process, and he said you're not allowed to talk about Straight Edge Hate.
Yeah, because there's like 2 lines in that song. Yeah.
So maybe we could talk about I will kill the worst parts of myself. Like, what was your writing process for that?
Yeah. Well, that one's about feeling depressed and feeling like I was drawing myself in 2 different paths. There was a period of time where I was feeling depressed and in bed in the middle of the day, trying to sleep it off and realizing, I can't just keep doing this. This is not making anything better. Maybe it's enough to like get me through the day, but this is not like on a path I want to go. And so thinking about, well, what path do I want to go on? And I felt like I was caught in the middle of wanting to be alive and wanting to die, and the 2 different paths that how you decide to live today will put you closer to one of those paths. And yeah, I just felt really conflicted and bad about it. And the writing process for that came out of that and wanting to describe how I was feeling in that moment.
Was there a particular line that came first?
I think just I will kill the worst parts of myself. Like, I had that, I think, before I had anything else in the song, because that was the first thing I thought of is I don't want to be doing this. I want to be rid of this feeling or all these things that I'm doing that are actually my own fault. It's me not being disciplined with how I live and giving more time and energy to these negative thoughts than I should. And it's easy to just kind of blame depression or anxiety. It's easy to blame these things without taking stock for what you're doing. So I guess that's what that moment was me looking at myself and taking stocks for what I was doing and be like, all right, I want to not do this. Like, I can't control how I feel, but I can at least control these things that I'm doing right now. So I thought of that line, I will kill the worst parts of myself. I just thought it fit and I thought it sounded hard. And I was like, okay, that's the song. I had the title. Now I got to figure out everything else to put in there. And so the rest of it was just kind of thinking about being caught between these two paths. It's like, part of me wants to get busy living, part of me wants to get busy dying. Fighting with one arm tied behind your back, you know, like if you can't make up your mind. And a lot of the lyrics just kind of came out from like images that I saw there. The image of fighting someone with one arm tied behind your back is what I was thinking of. I'm holding myself back here. I could blame it on depression, but that's really what it is. I just called it backhanded living because I thought that kind of captured the essence of what that was.
And was that like a one sitting you wrote it all down, or was
No.
that a process over days, weeks, months?
Probably weeks, might have been months. Yeah, that one did not happen quick. That was one of the last ones that I wrote, and I was just thinking about it a lot because I wanted it to be right. And I reached a point where I was like, okay, I need to just get some stuff out and just let it sit for a bit. So I did a lot of iterations of that where I had something that sounded decent. And then I was like, I don't like that line. And would just, took my time editing it. Whereas something like Hellhole, I think I did that maybe like 2 times of sitting down. Like, I don't know. It just kind of like came out. That was maybe an easier thing to get images for. Whereas this felt like, in general, if I have a really strong idea and focus for a song, and it's a very like, this is what it's about, the idea is clear, the images become clearer, and then I can think of more ways to say it. Whereas if the concept for the song is a little bit more ambiguous, then it can become hard for me to like even know what I'm trying to say. And then that becomes hard to think of those images and think of the lyrics themselves.
Yeah. Now, how did you marry it with the music?
I mean, this is a little silly, but a lot of times I will go through, get the music to a place where I'm like, this feels done. Maybe it's not done, but it feels done. I'll go through and press record, whisper syllables of where I think lyrics should go, and then I write it around that. I don't like having a line already written and then trying to put it somewhere and it doesn't fit. And I'm like, that would just make me so frustrated. So I try to come up with the syllables I want beforehand. And there's obviously a little bit of room to move those around or change them. But that's kind of where I start with. It's a very similar process to recording stupid riffs by humming them into my phone. It's like just recording the idea for a lyric by humming nonsense into a mic. So that's embarrassing. I could never, ever show those tracks to people, but it works,
So you worked with a producer, audio engineer for the album.
Mm-hmm.
What was that process like, having already produced your EP? Was there a lot of revisions, a lot of back and forth? What was that communication like?
Yeah, so his name is John Niclario, and we actually recorded with him for Plead the Widow's Cause, and that was right around the time where I was writing Hellhole, and so just working with him, I was like, oh, this guy gets it, and I like him, he's easy to work with, and I kind of picked his brain there of like, hey, if I send you tracks, is this doable? And he was like, yeah, send them through. So he's very easygoing, he's got a good energy to him, and I just liked working with him. I try my best to be like easygoing and chill. I'm totally not with music. I feel like I get really neurotic and the perfectionist comes out and I'm painstakingly going through everything. And I'm like, how do you want me to send the tracks? Should I have everything panned to the center? Should I do this? And so I ended up sending him way more stuff than he probably needed. But I essentially did my own mix before I sent it to him of like, this is kind of what I want it to sound like. This is the best I can do. So I sent him my rough bounces, used this as a reference for what I want it to sound like, and then I sent him some reference mixes of other bands. I believe I sent him a Cult Leader song, which is a Kurt Ballou mix, and it sounds awesome. Just as a, hey, this is the general sonic shape I want this to fit into. And then I sent him a folder of my mixed tracks. So every track in that mix, exactly with my plugins and panning information and volume information and everything. And then another version that was just dry everything. And I don't know what he ended up using or what, but the mixes were already at an okay place when I sent them to him. And then he just basically took them and was like, I get what you mean. Boom, here, they're better. And that's exactly what he did. Like, it was great. So yeah, that was actually like a pretty easy process of like getting it back. And I'm like, okay, I only have like a couple tweaks and then listening to it, like maybe a few more things. And then he sent me a couple different masters and there was one I liked more and boom, it's done. So Yeah, it was very, very easy to work with him.
That's awesome. And he clearly did a good job. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Yeah, he's great.
I know we're getting towards the end. I want to do a fun thing. We'll call it a lightning round. I'll hit you with some quick questions with quick answers. You ready?
Yeah.
So you're about to step into a cage fight. What's your walkout song?
I feel like I should pick one of my own songs, but that feels like a lame answer. Wide Open Wound by Nails.
You get to open for any band in history. Who is it?
The Chariot.
Someone who's never heard a pipe bomb. Which song should they start with?
If they're into the genre, I'd say Choke. If they're new to metal and not sure how they feel about like the more chaotic side of things, I'd say Under God's Heel.
What's the top band on your workout playlist?
I don't have a workout playlist, but occasionally I will put on music when I work out. And there's a band from Texas called I Am, and they're great. They're good. It's like Metallica plus like a little bit of like Kubla Khan, a little bit of like almost not quite slam, but they're heavy. They use very low tuned guitars and like, yeah, it's just great.
Favorite psalm?
Ooh, I don't have a
Not
good
everyone
answer for
has
this.
one. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm gonna go the classic one of like Valley of the Shadow of Death. That's a cliche answer, but
that's the one I feel the most pressure about writing because I know that's everyone's favorite. It's embroidered on walls all over the world, and that in 119. I don't know how I'm gonna do 119 because that's the super long one.
Yeah.
Favorite movie?
Lord of the Rings.
Last video game you played?
Crash Bandicoot, the like Switch reboot thing.
Favorite song to perform? Doesn't have to be yours.
Currently Bliss. We haven't performed it yet. We've been practicing. And yeah, I'm just really stoked on that one.
Introvert or extrovert?
I'm inclined to say introvert. I don't mind talking to people, but I think it depends on the person and it can definitely fluctuate a lot.
Last one. What do you think Jesus's favorite pipe bomb song is?
Maybe False God. I don't know. I feel like that one just kind of like presents the gospel in like a, hey, you can't earn it kind of way, which I think is important. So yeah, maybe that one.
Well, wrapping up, let's talk a little bit about what's next for you. I know you have a couple of live performances coming up. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah. So we are rehearsing right now for Audio Feed, which is, we're playing July 3rd, and that should be a lot of fun. That's in Urbana, Illinois. And on the way, it's like a little weekender tour we're doing. On the way back, we're hitting Columbus, Ohio at Dirty Dungarees, which is like a laundromat DIY punk venue. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then we have a couple things in the works for the fall that have yet to be announced, but a couple shows in October and one in November. And then other than that, we're trying to figure out just with everyone's schedule, what's doable and what we should prioritize. But yeah, at the moment, that's all we got going on. And then writing a new album or EP, hopefully, if I can not drive myself crazy. I'm trying to take my time and like maybe get to the point where at least like 5 or 6 are done before I decide if I want to drop an EP or wait for a full album or something. So just kind of like listen back to things and hate everything that I did. So I'm going to let it sit for a bit and see what happens.
Last question. How can people be praying for you?
Yeah, I guess just praise for direction for what Pipe Bomb should be and what we should do. There's a part of me that obviously really likes music and really wants to do it. And I think through most of my 20s, I was more inclined to make a lot of sacrifices on other things in order to pursue music. And in my 30s, you know, there's still sacrifices you have to make to pursue music, but it's tough balancing that with having a family and potentially future children and things like that. So yeah, I think direction and knowing how to balance those things. So whatever it is, I just want it to be like a good thing that doesn't lose what it is. You know, I don't want it to be like, oh, now this is a job, but I also don't want to not spend enough time on it and let it kind of fall away when it could be much bigger or more important to certain people or something like that. So yeah, I'd say that's the main thing. And also just prayers for being strengthened in the word and that I would seek God more and love God more and love other people more. I think that's been a hard thing for me, spending more time on social media. You get a lot of like mean comments sometimes, and even just like seeing everything in our feeds is designed to like make us angry at somebody. So it's been hard to spend more time on social media without getting angry at something or someone. So I guess just more of a desire to love other people in action and like in my soul. I want to not hate other people or get frustrated with them. So yeah, those two things.
That's awesome. Well, if you are listening to this or watching this, just stop and pray for Mitch right now that God would accomplish all that's in his heart for him and for his family and for Pipe Bomb. And Mitch, thanks for hanging out today. It's been an honor getting to know you. I learned a ton. There's probably a million more questions I'd love to ask you, but we'll have to save it for another time.
Yeah.
But thank you again
Thank you,
for
man.
joining us.
Nope. Just thanks for listening. It's just crazy that people listen. There's so many things people could be doing, and the fact that anyone listens to Pipe Bomb or listens to this or listens to anything is really significant. So thanks.
Right on. Cheering you on, brother. You're doing great
Awesome.
stuff.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.